Portrait Artist of the Week is back with Season 2 starting today on Facebook. No matter where you are in the world, you can look at the live feed and paint a portrait of a celebrity at the same time as a professional portrait artist. So I'll put the links to the Facebook page and everything in the description below this video. But what I'm going to do in this little video is just kind of review all the work I did for Season 1 of Portrait Artist of the Week, because I thought it would be a good time for me to do this, check out all the different techniques and results I got, and then kind of form a loose plan on how I'm going to tackle the work for Season 2. Here's my portrait of renowned choreographer Akram Khan. And to be honest with you, this isn't the best likeness I've ever achieved, but I am happy with the painting overall. I've used a combination of really clean and swift, very translucent watercolor washes, combined with detailed biro pen or ballpoint pen line work to kind of capture the texture of the beard, the moustache, the eyebrows, and enhance some of the details around the eyes, for example. And I'm really happy with the intensity of stare I've got here and the kind of focused look I've got in this gentleman's face. In week 2, I began to take several screenshots from the live feed as the sitter was chatting away at the start of the program to the professional artist. And I used those to create these really quick biro studies of Bernardine. So, some of them vary in how well I've captured her likeness, but they're all pretty energetic and loose and lively. And, you capture different parts of the character of the sitter if you work quickly in this way. And it's a good way to kind of take in their features and get the proportions into your subconscious. Now for week 2, the sitter was award-winning author Bernardine Evaristo. And I changed my technique completely for this one. So you can see I framed Bernardine in a kind of landscape format off to one side. And rather than using watercolor, I've used interactive acrylics. These are the acrylics which you can repeatedly re-wet to allow easy blending. And again, the likeness isn't spot on, but pretty good this time. I think better than week 1. And I feel I kind of captured a quiet determination in Bernardine's face. So I was pretty happy with this painting. For the portrait painting of photographer to the rich and famous Rankin, I actually started with these pretty small and pretty quick sketches using Sharpie markers. So the way I tackled these, and I'll put links to all the full videos for these paintings and different techniques in the description below, but the way I tackled this was, it's a grey Sharpie marker, mid-grey, so I actually started out, if memory serves me correctly, just by doing the mid-tone shading. Okay, so I did that for all 3. You can see it's kind of, gone a little bit wild there. And over here for this one, very, very loose approach. And then I came back in over the top of that with the black Sharpie marker to refine the line work and really define the drawing. And you can see there's a certain life and energy to this kind of scratchy, rapid approach. So those are the 3 quick sketches. So for the main painting of Rankin, I went a lot bigger. Okay, so this is pretty much full A2 size. And here I've used a combination of conventional acrylic. So if you remember in week 2, I used the interactive acrylics. This is all conventional acrylic, but the key thing here was it was applied with a brush. So for example, on the skin here, but it was also applied with a acrylic paint marker in certain areas, both for kind of the clearly drawn line bits, but also for things that are perhaps less obvious. For example, some of the dry brush effect in the background, and I think on the beard here, if memory serves me correctly, but you can check the full video for the details if you want to. So that's my finished portrait of Rankin. Week 4, and I went a little bit smaller in terms of format, so this paper is half the size that I did for Rankin, same size as I did for Bernardine. This is Rob Rinder. Pretty happy with the likeness on this one. I did struggle with this painting though. It took a lot of different iterations to get the likeness right, but the end result I'm happy with. And I actually used a range of different media here. I used some watercolor marker pens. I use some Inktense, and I also Inktense pencils, I should say, and they're the pencils where you can put them on like coloured pencil, but then if you run over them with a wet brush, you get this wonderful burst of, intense colour, basically almost like acrylic ink. And then I use some interactive acrylic on top. So that one was a little bit of a struggle, but got there in the end. So by the time we got to Will Young, I was really starting to enjoy challenging myself with different techniques, and I really wanted to push the boat out in terms of difficulty, I guess, for this week. So what I did was I started by taking several screenshots of different poses, and each of these quick sketches is done with a Sharpie marker pen, just a brown Sharpie marker, no preliminary pencil lines at all. And then I would go over those with a wash of sepia watercolor. So each of these only took a few minutes each. So some of them are better than others in terms of likeness, but I would like to think they're all reasonably powerful studies of a face in motion with different expressions. And you can see by doing this, I'm kind of learning about Will's face, kind of automatically. So it was a really interesting exercise for me to kind of just push myself and see what I could do. And then having done all of these quick sketches, I ended up producing this final painting. So what I did here was taking what I'd learned from using the Sharpie marker. I took a lot of care with my drawing because, as mentioned earlier, no pencil work. The Sharpie is a permanent marker, so you've got to get it right. And I took a lot of care getting the likeness right and being really careful with my drawing. And then, same watercolor sepia washes applied fairly rapidly, I was able to capture what I feel is quite a strong monochrome portrait. Now, Noel Fielding is generally loved for his quirky sense of humour and quirky style as well, so I decided to go quirky for this portrait. I used a combination of biro on top of watercolour applied with watercolour markers, but then through those watercolour marker lines and shaded areas, I would drag a clean wet brush. And, for me, this is the first and only time I've done a portrait in this style, so I'm really quite happy with that new experience. That's one of the joys I found of changing technique every week. Hopefully I was helping people out with my weekly tutorial videos, but in addition, from my point of view, I was learning a lot as well. And I did put a little bit of turquoise, you can see in his eyes there as well. But generally, just two colours of watercolor. The single color dark blue for the ballpoint pen. You can see some of the details on the headband and the eyebrows here, and then just a little touch of the turquoise watercolor for the eyes. Back to the quick biro studies for Claire Balding. So you can see this very, very loose and minimal line work here, and this is just A4 paper, so fairly small. Some of these turned out far better than others. This one's not particularly good. And the proportions here aren't particularly good either, but there are aspects that I've captured of Claire. And again, it's about learning about your sitter, doing these quick studies. This one I tried to enhance the biro with some dry brush marks applied with an acrylic paint marker pen. And, reasonably powerful there in places, but not quite the direction I wanted to go. So what I decided to do was to take one of my favourite sketch, where I felt I captured her likeness to the best effect, and then previously I'd put watercolor down and then pencil down first, say for Akram, and then watercolor on top and then biro. But for this one I decided, okay, I put the biro down first. This time I'll put down watercolor next and then go over the top of that with pencil, normal graphite pencil. So you can see here I've got graphite shading on top of some of the watercolor layers in different places. So again, a technique I hadn't tried before, and I think I captured a reasonable likeness of Claire in mid-conversation. Sketches of Professor Green, I started out with an alcohol-based mid-grey marker, working fairly small and quickly again. And then I decided to switch that up a little bit and start with blue ballpoint pen or biro for the drawing, then go over that with the alcohol marker pen. And what that does is it makes the paint bleed, the ink bleed a little bit, and it just gives a certain richness to the ballpoint pen lines that you don't normally get. And again, these are all quick sketches. So for example, I think this likeness is pretty good. I like the expression. I think this likeness is very good. I like the expression. But some of the others aren't so great. This one's not so good. And this one's not so great either. But again, learning about the sitter as I go. For the main painting, I went to my large scale work again, and I combined conventional acrylic, so that's the acrylic which doesn't respond once dry to re-wetting, and then over the top of that I applied the interactives to do all the blending. So the beauty of this technique is that the conventional acrylic, once dry, completely seals the surface of the paper, and it gives you a lovely smooth surface onto which you can apply the interactives. So quite a powerful portrait, perhaps not the absolute best likeness, but again, learning as I go, and really enjoyed this one too. For the final week, I decided to go back to what I would consider my signature style. So I used watercolour marker to do the initial drawing of Dame Mary Beard, and then I used the interactive acrylics to capture a realistic but not photographic representation of the sitter. So I try to keep my brushwork expressive, and I try to push the colours in the highlights and lowlights a little bit beyond what they are in reality. And this one I feel worked quite well because I was able to leave a little bit of the initial drawing work from the blue or turquoise watercolour marker. I think this might be Prussian blue actually, this colour. And that kind of worked really well with Mary's hair, I feel. You know, I barely had to do much painting on the hair. It just kind of, everything kind of came together in that final week for me. So my plan for season 2 is to keep going with this style, but I may include a few quick watercolor studies as well. We'll see what happens, but my general plan for season 2 is to stick with one style throughout and experiment more if I do quick studies. So we'll see how it goes. Hope you enjoyed this little video. If you stumbled across this video and you're not aware of what I normally do, this is just a bonus video I'm doing today. So my regular Sunday art show video is currently up on the channel, and that's episode Z of the Animal Alphabet Challenge. So feel free to check that one out as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching.